Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Arbor podcast. I'm your moderator, Jake Vanderhayden, and joined here today by my co-founders, Andrew Witter, Tim Greamy, and Andrew Peters. We are here today to, first of all, introduce you to Arbor, and then also to introduce ourselves to you as well, and kind of how we all came to be here, and then also a little bit more about what's to come on the podcast in the future. So to set the foundation of why we're all here. We're all artists ourselves in various capacities. We met together as musicians in college, and we have spent a lot of time working on different projects together, and that has really led to some great collaboration amongst us as far as what we feel like we could contribute to the art community beyond just our art, but also like creating demand for artists and helping people to thrive in their career, especially in the current landscape as everything has been changing so fast in the past 5 to 10 years with the internet, social media, the rise of streaming for music, the different mediums of digesting art online and how that's changed everyone's approach. And also the rise now of Web3 cryptocurrencies and how that is affecting not just artists, but everyone else in the greater economy as well. So during the NFT craze about 2 years ago, I had thought to myself that there has to be a better way for artists to be able to be compensated in this new, exciting landscape of NFTs. There has to be a better way to not only facilitate creating this NFT, which, like, let's be honest, like at first everyone was like, what does that stand for? And even when you found out it stood for non-fungible token, you still were like, well, what is this thing, right? So we really came together and just we're like, there has to be a better way, right? So Andrew is gonna tell us a little bit more about our idea and how we're gonna go about doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, we've got I think a sort of solution to these predicaments really, but it's funny. I think we all separately had an isolated moment where we were like NFTs, music, art. There has to be something here, and so it's like we all had those different ideas together separately, and then brought them together. And for like probably a good 6 months or more, we just sat down and like talked about every possibility in the thing itself, and what. And we really went much further than just like Web3. We were like starting with like a blank slate. Here's the how do artists get, like, how do you full time live and do art and not be like a bajillionaire doing it, right? Like, where's that happy medium of I just really want my bills paid, dog. I want to be able to like be in West Michigan or anywhere in the world and just have like a nice normal life. I don't need to drive a Porsche. I don't need to fly private and play at Little Caesars Arena or like I just want a little something, and so we really just from all of that we're like, okay, we have to bring people together, so it has to be some sort of platform for people to get on and to consume art and to invest in people and you know be more interactive and intentional about art itself. And so like that all together we've put with just a number of different features. We're really aiming to encapsulate this place for people. And the platform itself will have like direct investments. You can buy something for someone. You can engage in maybe like a marketplace. You can engage in artists that are non investment wise, but just or money monetarily, just the time itself. And what that for the back end for artists, we've noticed too along this kind of like large, very long brainstorm, a lot of artists don't understand the financial aspect of a brand. And so we really want to be set out to help people with that. And so there'll be financial tools on the back end, and there'll be like more of a hub to promote and to better understand metrics for marketing, and also just educational resources for people to dive in and ask questions and get them answered. So we think this really is going to be like the thing that's been missing. It's missing for me in my life as an artist. It's missing for my friends in their life as an artist. And I think I really hope that this will fill that void for people,
Yeah, for sure. I'm Tim. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, and Grew up in Troy, Michigan. For those not familiar with the Michigan area, that's kind of north of Detroit, not too far out. And for my Michigan friends keeping score at home, we all know that's not anywhere near close to Detroit. So yeah, I grew up in Troy. I went to Troy High School, and like all of these guys, I was a band kid. Did marching band, did jazz band, did concert band, hung out in the band room before school, hung out in the band room after school. I remember Andrew Peters and I went to high school together. I remember many lunches were shared together in that band room. Yeah,
Band is life.
any of you who were you were band kids, theater kids, y'all know the vibe. So yeah, I found myself very quickly immersed in this musical world. Um, through those before school hangs, after school hangs, and whatnot, after school jam sessions. Um, come like my senior year of high school or whatever, some of my friends and I, we would like go down to Detroit and we'd hit some of those jam sessions like at Cliff Bells and whatnot. And yeah, I just really quickly found myself falling in love with just playing music and being surrounded by other musicians. So yeah, I went on to major in music. I got my undergraduate degree from Grand Valley State University. I'm a saxophonist, so I was in the saxophone studio with Andrew Peters over here, but all four of us went to Grand Valley. And so, yeah, kind of like Jake said in the beginning, we collaborated a lot, we hung out a lot, we, shot the stuff a lot, and everything in between, So yeah, I got kind of like a generalized performance degree from Grand Valley. We didn't have a jazz degree per se, so it was kind of me going out and doing my own thing, getting lessons and studying with people on my own, as well as going out in the community and like playing with these guys here, things like that. So yeah, I went on to specialize a little bit more, I guess we could call it, and I got my master's degree at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. I got that degree in jazz and improvisation. And yeah, so I just finished that degree and beginning of May, end of April. So finally done with school, 17 years later, whatever it is. And yeah, so now I'm hanging. I play around the Ann Arbor area. I play in the Grand Rapids area, sometimes with some of these guys, sometimes not. Yeah, I've been working on some doubles chops to play like some pit gigs, wedding gigs. I hosted a local jazz series at a coffee shop in Ann Arbor last summer called Tim Greamy and Friends, where I invited a lot of my friends from the area, and we would play for like a Sunday brunch kind of thing. So yeah, that's a little about me. That's a little about what I have done and what I do. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna pass it on to my co-founder Andrew Peters here, and he's gonna do the same and tell a little bit about himself.
Right on. So yeah, nice segue there, given we're literally from the same place here. So also grew up in East Michigan, like he's saying.
Represent that 248.
Yeah, you got it. Now I just get all
Repping that 248.
Yeah. All the phone calls I get now are 248. It's all spam garbage. But anyway, so grew up in a really musical family. Tim also studied with my dad, actually, private lessons. So I grew up with music, art in general. Yeah, it's on a continuum. I was hearing Charlie Parker plays bebop from my dad when I was like 3-4 years old, kicking my feet to Ella and in the store kind of thing. So yeah, music is art in general. It's at my foundation. So like Tim said, it was band kid. I think I went to the cafeteria for like a month or two, and then from then on was always in the band room for lunch. Rest of high school kind of thing. So same vibe there. And I obviously went on to go to Grand Valley State University with these guys again, Tim in saxophone studio. You know, when I first got into it or decided that I was going to pursue a career in music, it was more along the lines of, oh, I've got a knack for this thing, which later evolved to, oh, maybe I can touch someone with this music, reach people, which is ultimately my kind of goal there. So went on, finished the undergrad and got a master's at CCM, University of Cincinnati. I'm still there now, finishing up a doctorate. Along the way, you know, in undergrad, masters, and now a lot of outreach performances, active in the competition stuff, particularly on the quartet side. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that I've done is through school, but again, as like an output, my desire is to, as I said before, to reach people of some kind, and how that may be. On one side of the spectrum, like people that have never heard the saxophone before, don't know that it's capable of doing some of the things it can. There's that side. I want to expose people to those things on top of hopefully inspiring them to listen to the damn thing again. That'd be great. And on the other side, kind of like what I said before, but just reaching people in general, emotively. That's the point behind this thing, in my humble opinion. So again, just touching someone at the heart one way or another. So that's just a little background on my end. I'll pass it off to next co-founder here.
All right, I'll jump in. Hello, I'm another saxophone player from the east side of Michigan now.
Don't worry, we're not all
promise we're
saxophone
different.
players.
Oh, close.
But yeah, I'm Jake. I play the saxophone, and I now have, I guess, a 9-to-5 career in business. I thought that I was going to go into music like the others here, but I guess kind of my like existential crisis in high school was, will I be able to have a career in music? I, was definitely supported along the way to go into it, but just the way that the industry has changed and what is needed to really be successful in music has changed. So it was kind of not my purpose at the time to continue it as a career as a professional musician, but I feel like my purpose was to lead me towards what I'm doing now, learning how I can better support musicians and how there is something more out there for people to be able to just focus on their art. And I hope like through all this effort that's something that I could do for myself as well. My background formally, again, went to Grand Valley State, as the guys have mentioned, and I have a degree in finance and management. So I have done my best to apply that in different areas. I started a jazz group called In the Blue Jazz Ensemble. You can still find us. The group is active. We're at In the Blue Jazz if you want to check out our project there. Mostly a wedding group at this point, especially after the pandemic, with the closure of a lot of live music venues or just the inability to support live music at places that we used to play. The business has really shifted into that market. So that's where we're at now, but we definitely spent a lot of time together, all four of us in some capacity at different points in time, playing at coffee shops, festivals, weddings, restaurants, you name it. We've been there.
Dive bars
in the West Michigan area.
The Village Inn.
Even dive bars have jazz on accident. They thought we were a blues group because of our name.
Got him.
But it happened. So that's mostly what I've worked on with these guys. Outside of that, I started a nonprofit 6 years ago that's still going, the Holland Concert Jazz Orchestra, which was mostly to bring a quality jazz project to the Lakeshore region of Michigan, in Holland, Michigan, to have a quality big band that was able to bring some jazz to that community where there's traditionally not a lot of live jazz opportunities for, not just the community members, but particularly for kids in school. So we also had started a community soloist festival and a scholarship program as well. So really excited to see where that has went. But since then, I've moved out to the LA area. I'm in California, and have just continued to engage with my network back in Michigan and now around the country as people have dispersed and went different places. It's especially important, I think, to stay in touch with this community-based network that we're trying to develop here, because art traditionally has had a limitation of physical space. Like, you'd have to go to an art gallery, you'd have to go to a musical production, you'd have to go to a live performance to be able to consume art in the traditional sense. But we're hoping that we can really bring together, and I've really seen that with what I've been doing in the past few years here, being on more of a remote basis and seeing how things have changed. And then I'm also still serving as a board member of the West Michigan Jazz Society, which has a pretty similar mission to the Holland Concert Jazz Orchestra, just to bring music to the community and provide educational opportunities for underserved communities too. So definitely part of my ethos is, bringing my knowledge to the projects that I work on, serving the community. I think that that's the most important thing in art is, the money is not the most important thing. It's definitely the art, but we also, as others have mentioned already, you need to survive. You can't just do art for charity, right? It needs to be a career. So that's what we're hoping to do, is to empower people. And next I'll pass it off finally to Andrew W., who is not a saxophone player from East Michigan.
Yes, that is correct. I'm not from East Michigan. I'm not a saxophone player. Everything else about the same. I actually grew up I was born in Central Michigan, and I started beating on pots of pans when I was like a year or so, like a year and a half. I think it's kind of where it started, but I don't know. We'll see. As a drummer, like, it makes sense that I would kind of start there, but I really like put the sticks down, the paddles down, and the pots and pans down for a few years, and then picked up music again like fifth or sixth grade. And like these guys, I mean, I really hung out. That was where I found my community, and that was with other band people. And lunches were actually prohibited in the band room at my school. So you had to use the lunchroom.
Where's
You
the
could go
hang?
there
Where's the
after,
hang?
just no food and drink, bro. So I think I really like found such a great community there, and then saw the wonderful thing that music is. Decided to major in it. Met all these guys at GVSU, and I had a similar moment where like Jake, where he had this thing of, oh, music career, like that sort of thing. And except I had that when I was like done with my degree in music. It wasn't like I preempted about. I was like, shit, what did I just do that for again? And that's why this is like our Arbor. This idea is like it's a thing for me, because I'm like, I want to make music, and I'm having a hard time even trying to find the music I want to play in West Michigan. It's like there's just really no one else doing it. So I mean, if there was some way I would be able to like solely like find more ways to have art and get financially compensated for it, like, hell yeah. So I could open myself up more to do the things I actually want to do, and all that to say, I do enjoy the projects I'm currently in. Like everyone in this call right now, I was in the Blue for I think like 6 years. Had a hell of a time. We had a great time doing it. Just learned a bunch about the music scene and like where gigs are happening, and where the demand comes from, and the want and the need for it. And so yeah, I left that not too long ago, and now I'm in another band called Nocturnal Lights, playing drums and percussion in that group, playing some percussion in that. And I've played drums and percussion in all sorts of other groups too in the past few years since I've left college. Like some musical stuff, some like metal, some punk rock, to uh, soft jazz, to like weird, stretchy, weird jazz. And yeah, I love music so much, and I think this like way we share it with community. And I would just think about the person who's a bad day and then comes and listens to music, and maybe they're even stubborn, and no one can really kind of meet them where they are and help them out of this darkness. But yeah, music for them is like this ultimate listener and who can be heard by anyone, and it can affect anyone. There's no language barrier. There's no cultural barrier. Like this sound is universally understood, still interpreted differently, but um, yeah, I know. And now getting like in this weird stuff, this is showing up in my other backgrounds too. Like outside of music, I was a part of the decriminalized nature community here. I still am a part of it, although the West Michigan or Grand Rapids subcommittee has now come disbanded. But that's something that's also really close to me too, is building community through plant medicine. And so I think music is right next to it with plant medicine for ways of healing people who maybe think that there's really no way out of this. The predicament they may find themselves in. So, yeah. Anyway, I go on about that. That's even for another pod. But yeah, I'll hand it back
Great.
off
Well,
to Jake here.
Yeah, we've all talked so much about community and how that was the basis of Art Arbor itself. So I just wanted to open the floor up to what role do you think, besides what you've seen with community, how does community play a role in the life of an artist? Anyone who wants to take that?
Well, if there's like no, there's no person to share it with, you're in this little vacuum by yourself. It's like, I don't really know if it's worth doing to some degree. There's I think it's something for you, but I think experiences are best shared with other people,
Definitely. And I've seen it, like we've mentioned, like I think being in a band in capacity, like a large ensemble, a small band, like you learn how to work together and create an output as artists together. Like you have your individual input, but then you have that collective as well. So I think community is so fundamental to creation, because first of all, like in music or in really any art, you need an audience to really give it perspective. We all have spent time practicing by ourselves, but that's not why we do it. Like we crave that connection, either with others playing together, or I know in other capacities, like people on a stage in a production, like they don't want to have a one-man show. They want to come together and create that art as a community. So it really is critical to bring people together. And I feel like the internet really divides us, and it really, we're stuck in our algorithm. We're stuck in our subsect of the internet, but we really need to find more ways to bring people together online and to allow that creativity to flourish. And, other than using, groups and messaging and things to pull people together to do things in person, that there's not really a way to bring people together to consume art online properly. It's a very individual experience right now.
Yeah, man. And to kind of build on what you said, to create art like together with this kind of like direct engagement, direct interaction, I think is just super important. Time and time again, I've seen how like in podcasts, just forums, discussions, so on and so forth, that like fans seem or feel under recognized, like at best, kind of a thing. And to have a place where you can consume and support the art creation, but like in a direct sense, like literally support and be a part of it one way or another, like have that feeling, that kind of, again, just that connectivity, like we're saying, that I think it can really be lost, given the way things are.
Yeah, and I think like building off all of this, like I maybe this is overstretching, but I would go as far as to say as community in terms of art, for me personally, in terms of music, is quite literally everything. It's the thing that kind of drew me in the beginning. Through the band room hangs, through the jam session hangs, it's the thing that when I get down about my personal playing, whatever I'm doing, what I'm not doing, whatever, the community is what re-inspires me, whether that's through like watching another performance of someone, whether that's just hanging with my musician friends. Um, and then obviously when it comes to the actual performance or the engagement with the art, like Jake was saying, that we can play for each other, and that's all right. That's all right. But me personally, my aspiration is not to just play for other musicians my whole career. In fact, I really don't want to do that. Other saxophonists, man, that's the most critical people out there.
Poor audience.
I don't want to just do that. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe yeah, again, maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration, but for me, I truly do feel that the community in art and music is quite literally everything.
Yeah, I mean it's like more than just music too, right? It's like imagine going to the movies by you know, and it just being like an empty theater. Like it's different if you go by yourself and there's other people there, but it's like some of the most stark dystopian paintings, whether through media or actual painting, is this wasteland where you're the last human left, and there's no other life around you. And I think that like this randomly came to my head. I remember one time I was playing drums and like this like bee like landed, and it was some sort of bug landed on my drum, and I was being like, oh look, he's listening too. And so so I mean, I think there's just life all around us, and connecting with that is like what we do with music. I mean, that's like the origin of music, is to connect and to communicate.
And I think to your point, using an example that we've joked a lot about is like the Wally example of we can be around each other theoretically. We could be, 5 feet away from each other, but
Mm.
if we're so absorbed in the little screen,
Yeah,
it might not even matter.
absolutely. Yeah, in your own world at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on more challenges we have in artists, but relating directly to this like degradation of community. I feel like online there's just an overabundance of art. Like if you even talk about how things have changed in the last 10 years as far as with music, you can stream anything you want. So it's becoming harder for musicians to stand out, like to have that recognition, because there is so much out there. And
Yeah.
also with the customization algorithms, there is no like song on the radio that anyone listens to anymore. Like you could have a completely different taste in music, which is really cool that you can find your space, but we're even losing that sense of collectiveness of like the culture. And online, it really pulls us away from those in-person experiences. I feel like right after the pandemic, when everything opened, everyone went back out, but kind of assessed back into this addiction of the algorithm and what is being custom catered to us and what we individually have found to enjoy, but we haven't been able to like really, unless we actively try to find community to have that anymore. So going off of that, yeah, what challenges like do you see in society or specifically to yourselves as artists in facing these challenges?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the whole conversation of the algorithm is so interesting, because oftentimes, like if you talk to successful artists of any kind, really, they're gonna say, find your thing, like find your niche. Everyone says it differently. Find your thing, man. Like your voice. It's what you want to say. Like, you know, a problem with that is so much of what we have to do as artists now is fighting against the algorithm, just doing all kinds of things that have nothing to do with art creation, constantly updating subscription prices, that kind of thing. Just so many things that have nothing to do with the art creation itself,
Yeah, man, it's a full-time job just to get yourself out there, and then what time is left for your art, right?
Right, and I mean, if the goal is to find that individual voice, I think not having the complete like ability to really focus on that and just like tap into that voice, like you're not musical but artistic of any kind, right? Artistic desires, that sense of community that we think is missing. I think a big part of it, not all, but a big part of it does start there too.
I think it's interesting. It's like I was talking with a friend recently about, you know, some similar things, and it's like with the introduction of the algorithm and the forever scroll and whatnot, I find myself sometimes spending, you know, however many minutes, most often too many, scrolling on whatever social media app, and it's like, you know, I'll kind of get out of it and be like, hold on a sec, I didn't even see anyone I know. Like I've not consumed a single piece of information from anyone in my life even. And it's like I don't know, it's just interesting. You know, as much as it may make me sound like a millennial boomer, you know, Facebook mom or whatever, that is one of the reasons that I keep Facebook on my phone and I will like go on it, is because it's like, oh, I'll see like a random joke that Jake has shared, or I'll see like some event that Witter has shared in that's happening in Grand Rapids, and it's like, you know, on one hand, there is a lot of value in watching my favorite artists, my, you know, heroes or whatnot, do their thing, but at the same time, I think there's also a lot to be said about just connecting with the people that are in our lives, like the people that we actually know. You know, maybe I don't care what event Witter's going to, but at least I know he's going. Maybe I think the joke that
Yep.
Jake has shared is dumb, but like, you know, at least it's still engaging with people I know.
Yeah, I want you there at the event, by the way. This Friday. I really think with things changing so fast, it's kind of it's. I remember talking to a cat that was really. He was like, I did a lot of music in the '80s and '90s, around the 2000s. He kind of stopped, and I asked him, I was like, "Man, how did y'all like make money back then?" And he's like, "Everywhere had live music. Everywhere did." Because how else would there be music? Like there weren't as many like radio things, or you know, there wasn't able to like stream things, or not a lot of like speaker systems were installed in places like you had live music, and that's how it was. I mean, for everything for the last few hundred years before that, and just now it's like, well, actually, I don't need a live band. I can just hire maybe a DJ to come in and do something, or I can just hire nothing against DJs, love DJs, but like I mean, like set something up and just be able to play on my Spotify or whatever. And I think the landscape is changing, so it's been really like fun just hanging out with these four guys trying to navigate this new space and hopefully to offer up something for people, you know, to kind of at least feel like we're moving in a direction that could be more solution oriented. Because I don't think people are really talking about it. I mean, it's just sad to see something like that, the new Spotify, that lawsuit that came out with Spotify, where it's like just artists aren't getting any money. So now there's this thing that everyone's consuming. There's a possibility to make money, and yet somehow the artists are still struggling to make any money with, you know, a number of people may be listening to them, like 100,000 people, but they're still all, you know, working a day job or something. And it's like, that's a ridiculous numbers. 100,000 people are engaging, and yet we have no one. We have no, you know, these people are still having any bills being paid.
And we're back. A little bit of technical difficulties, but it wouldn't be the first podcast without that, right? But anyways, a lot of good conversation today. We want to continue that in the future, not just amongst us and some of the guests that we want to have on, but with you all as well. So be sure to check us out on our social media pages. We're Art Arbor, and also feel free to be in touch with us and email to info@artarbor.community is our email address. We'd love to hear from you, or send us a message to share your stories or experiences about community or challenges as an artist that we discussed today. But looking forward to the future, we'll be not only bringing more guests on and having more of these types of discussions, but also giving you some updates about what's going on with our platform as we're developing it. As you can tell, we are not technical people, so we are on a journey of building a platform online. So we want to take you along with us on that journey. And we're also going to be bringing on a lot of guests that have similar stories to ours, but definitely diversifying the types of art that people are working on and hearing their experiences as an artist, and really helping us to formulate what we're going to continue to do with this platform in the future. So join our community in Art Arbor by following along, and definitely give us any feedback that you have too, not just on the podcast here, but on the platform in general as we go along. So thanks for joining us today on the first episode of the Art Arbor podcast. Again, I'm your moderator, Jake Vanderhayden, joined by Andrew Witter, Tim Greeny, and Andrew Peters. And we will have you join us soon for future episodes of the pod. Bye.
See you next time, y'all.
See you next